12 minutes to 5. This is Drive Time with me, Fiona Stoker. Now, the biopic about the late composer Leonard Bernstein isn't released until next month, but it's already filled column inches and Twitter feeds in the row about a prosthetic nose worn by the actor playing him, Bradley Cooper. Some critics say it plays up to the offensive Jewish stereotypes, but Bernstein's family say they were perfectly fine with Cooper using makeup to what they say is amplifying his appearance. Well, let's discuss this further with Alex Hearn, columnist for the Jewish Chronicle, who's currently writing a book about anti-Jewish fantasies. Good to speak to you, Alex. How are you?
Hi, Fiona. I'm good, thanks.
Just give us your reaction, if you would, to the row. You put up a really interesting thread on social media that someone spotted and sent to me, but tell the audience about what you wrote, if you would.
Well, firstly, I don't object to a non-Jew playing the part. Bradley Cooper's an amazing actor. But my problem with the prosthetic was that it was inaccurate and it caricatured the nose, and the shape of it was wrong. And in fact, Cooper's real nose was more accurate. Now, the question is then, why was it used when it's functioned as a racial signifier for Jews since medieval times? Which is why many Jews instinctively recoiled when they saw this image. And your listeners can judge for themselves when they look at the image of Bernstein next to the image of Bradley Cooper's representation of him. So in 1275, an illuminated manuscript in England was the first example of Jews being caricatured. And basically it blamed them for killing Jesus and showed them represented with exaggerated noses, morally repugnant and physically repugnant. And anti-Semitic portrayals of Jews have featured big noses since those times. Almost, well, every single anti-Semitic portrayal of Jews. And then in the 1800s, this was justified with pseudoscientific ideas, where they said, well, this is why, this is the pseudoscientific reason for this physical defectiveness, which culminated in the Nazi propaganda and policies that we're all quite familiar with, where they even measured noses. So in other words, it formed Hitler's warrant for genocide as well, partly. So today, the racist stereotype of Jews having big noses has been revitalized with internet memes, such as one called The Happy Merchant, which has gone viral. And there are anti-Semitic cartoons like the one in The Guardian recently. So that someone subconsciously, and I don't believe there's any anti-Semitic intent behind this.
Okay, so you don't think it's a deliberate anti-Semitic move?
No, I do not at all. But this is the water that we swim in. You know, this is thousands of years old, and it tells us something, that society held up Jews in this way as the antithesis of everything to be. This is the assumptions that society makes. And by looking at these things, we can understand how someone subconsciously thought it was a good idea to put an oversized nose onto a Jewish man who has a decent sized nose in the first place, but Bradley Cooper's nose is not that different to it, and this nose was not even the same shape.
Is it maybe far too simplistic? Is it tone deaf? Is it insensitive? Is that as accurate?
Yes.
You would say. What do you think?
I think it was misjudged and unnecessary. But I think it's a good time to talk about these things at a time when attacks against Jewish people are so high. You know, a quarter of all attacks in the latest Home Office figures on about 0.5% of the population, which are what Jews are. So it's important that we understand the resonance, the cultural resonance of these things over time. They don't just disappear.
No, and as you were saying, it's been around since, 1275. Do we need to have better conversations about anti-Semitism? Do we need to have better education about it?
We absolutely do. I believe that we should learn anti-Semitism outside of the Holocaust and about the reality of what Jews are, not the fantasies about what people say about Jews.
And Bernstein's family, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about this today, and it's been really interesting. Bernstein's family said they were okay with this. Does that change anything for you?
Not really. I'm sure the film will be a wonderful tribute. And as I said, I don't think the intention was bad. I'm sure that the intention was just good, and it was, as you said, sort of tone deaf to the heritage of this. But obviously, the family want the film to be remembered for the right reasons, which is understandable.
And has it become, I suppose, this trope become normalised for a lot of people?
Because of this incident, no, I don't think so. Hopefully not. But as I said, a lot of Jewish people sort of saw this actor with a great big rubber nose on and just looked at it and said, "Whoa." So from that point of view, it made many Jewish people feel very uncomfortable given the resonance of this idea.
Alex, it was fascinating speaking to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Alex Hearn there, a columnist for the Jewish Chronicle, who is currently writing a book about anti-Jewish fantasies. The time is just coming up to